Hey everyone, I am so excited for you to experience Kyran O'Neil. He's a former Olympic boxer and he shares the insights of going after his unspoken desire, his untapped potential, where it led him, and where he is today. Some of the golden nuggets in this episode are about mental fluidity, something that he picked up from his boxing experience that he now uses to help high performers achieve at a higher level. I can't wait for you to hear about this superpower and to experience Kieran's energy. We start actually into the episode in the warm up, which I normally clip before we jump into the masterpiece questions. But there was so much gold here and shared energy vibes that I wanted to share part of the warm up with you. We start with Kieran talking about his travels, and I share some of mine. And then we go into the masterpiece conversation. I can't wait to see you at the end and hear about how much value you gained from watching this episode. It's absolutely beautiful.
I'm traveling. I've been traveling a lot. Went to India, went to Zanzibar, went to Egypt to see the pyramids.
Oh, I went to
Um,
Egypt too. I went to Egypt and Spain and I walked the Camino.
oh, really?
Yeah.
How was
Yeah.
that?
It was incredible. Both of them were incredible. I went to Egypt for a lifebook trip and I was actually a coach on the lifebook and I did a sacred geometry experience in the Valley of the Kings for everyone and creating the flower of life. And then I walked the Camino from Sarria to De Compostela and it was a time of year I thought it might rain a lot, but it actually was sunny the entire time and it was so beautiful. I mean, just unbelievable. Yeah, I really enjoyed
That
it.
sounds incredible.
It was
What an experience.
incredible. It was.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like it was a while since I went through a bit of a J curve, you know. It'd been a while since I'd
Yeah.
gone through a period of uncertainty. Like I had
Yeah.
5 years of ding, and then I went dong.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, whoa, what's
Well,
going on? So
you
it was a
you are
step change, but it was
expressing the
needed.
truth that I talk about in my book that I've experienced, which is sometimes you have to back up to go forward. And it's like you back up and you have to realign to the tracks. And then when you realign to the tracks of what's most important to you now, then you go forward. And the
Yeah.
backing up feels like darkness, but actually it's not. You're always moving forward. You're always on the path.
Yeah. I like the story of Robin Hood, you know. It's like an arrow. So there's moments where you're flying, you see the target and you feel like
Mm,
you're going back, going back, going back, going back, going
yeah.
back, and then you identify a target and then you let go. And you either glide, and the gliding is the fun part, and then you either hit the
Ah.
target or you
Mhm.
miss the target. This is something I wrote on a post. You either hit the target, everything's amazing, but guess what? You got to come back again because you got to hit another target, or you miss the target and you got to pick yourself back up and then go backwards a little bit. And I love all the old stories, the old English
Oh
stories,
yeah, because it's not
the old
just one
Robin.
arrow. You're not just
Yeah.
shooting one arrow, man.
Yeah, you got to pick it up, and sometimes the arrow's broken, so
Yeah.
you got to mend it and put it back together, and then you got to find another target, and then you go backwards a little bit, and it's like, it feels like I
Oh yeah.
finally,
I
I'm
love
finally
that.
like
That is such a great
letting
way.
go of that. Phew. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I'm really
and then
excited for this conversation, and
yeah,
I'm
me too.
really honored to have you on this Masterpiece Cafe. I've been just inviting people who I really love being around and whose stories and their lives really inspire me, and your story inspires me. You were a professional boxer, and now you are, you help people with their leadership and their mindset. And I just want to hear more, more about that. And I'm excited about that. So maybe we just kind of dive in a little bit and we can just kind of go into tell readers a little bit about what this moment in your life in the past, and then we see what comes up, in our conversation. I'm sure there'll be
Uh,
a lot of magic, but where you had a desire to say become a professional boxer, and you stepped into that. And it was kind of this unspoken desire, and then kind of what unfolded as a result of you stepping into that. And I hope readers know a little bit about your story.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, for the record, people often get it mixed up. Uh, Amateur boxing and professional boxing are two different entities. So I wanted to box at the Olympics. That was my goal. I wanted to win Olympic gold
Oh,
because winning Olympic gold, there's only one Olympic gold medalist every 4 years, where there's new champions every 6 months, world
right,
champions in the professional series. So that was always
right.
my dream and my goal. So I was by that point where I was breaking onto the national team for England. I was 10 years in. I was 19. I had a software sales career before that, believe it or not, at 17. And in fact, here's the whistle stop tour, right? Left school at 16 because of my ADHD. I couldn't sit down and concentrate, and in exams and
Right.
coursework, my it was so mismanaged because I was undiagnosed. Everybody just assumed that I had a neurological problem, but didn't
Yeah.
want to take me to a psychiatrist. I went to a school called it's Peter Jones Enterprise Academy. So, you guys got Shark Tank over in the US,
Yeah.
but we've got something called Dragon's Den. So imagine you're Mark Cuban. He's a school for entrepreneurs. So instead of doing exams and coursework, you would come up with an idea, you'd pitch for investment, and then you'd go and execute a business plan. And regardless of whether it failed or whether it succeeded, they wanted to see how that worked.
Mm.
Graduated there from 17, went into software sales, sold nothing, like nothing for my first 9 months. Knew I was going to get fired. And then I just didn't realize the buying cycles of the market that I was in, which was virtual reality for education. And this is back when VR wasn't a thing, really. And educational technology wasn't really a thing either. Sold nothing. Then on my 10th month, right as I was about to get fired, sold over £400,000 and closed that. And all of a sudden, I had this career. Like I'm 18, 19, and doing really well, and I'm feeling amazing. But I'm boxing at the same time, and I had to make the call, which was, do I continue down my software sales career, or do I go and make my dream happen? So I left to go and make my dream happen to go into Olympic boxing. I knew I could sell my whole life, but I didn't know I could fight my whole life. And yeah, you know, it all at the start, it all went great because, I broke onto the national team, was fighting international tournaments, was doing lots of fun things. But I become very anxious and I ended up having an eating disorder. So I was boxing at 56 kilos. I'm 5'8", so super light for
Ooh,
that
yeah.
height. And then I didn't want to move up in weight. So I started starving myself to continue to maintain the weight. And
Oh,
between 18 and 23 for a man, that's when a man really packs on muscle and size and height. And I just wasn't giving my body the nutrients it needed. It eventually broke down into a depression, an eating disorder, and I wanted to take my own life. I just
right.
didn't want to be here anymore. I felt like I'd lost everything. And I was kind of holding on to this promise I made to my first ever boxing coach. He passed away of cancer in 3 weeks. He was fine and then dead. And in the hospital, I said to him, I want to win you the Olympic gold.
Mm.
And I clung on to that toxic goal.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it became clear to me that I couldn't do that. And then, yeah, it was really that. And then my mental performance coach and performance psychologist, Hazel Gale, she was also a therapist.
Yeah.
And she understood therapy and boxing, and she'd won world titles herself as a boxer, a kickboxer as well.
Yeah.
So she helped me realize that my unspoken desire, the thing that I thought I wanted, but actually I didn't, wasn't to go and see Olympics and win gold. It wasn't to live a life of boxing. Actually, I wanted to go into business. That was the thing that excited me. That was the thing that let me go. And the way that she did this, and I do this with my clients today sometimes. It was an amazing thing. I'll never forget it. She got me to visualize two Kierans in the room. One Kieran was Olympic gold around his neck in software sales. Kieran, who had gone back into business and he was traveling the world and he was doing that. And that was when the unspoken desire became clear because when I looked at the boxing version of Kieran. I was very skinny, I was very pale, I was very anxious. I didn't feel like I was in the right place. Whereas when I looked at business Kieran, I was happy, I was in control, I was calm, I was enjoying what I was doing. I was loving it. And it was in that moment, it was like, okay, looks like I'm gonna have to quit boxing. It looks like that's the path. And from there, it was, I made a bigger deal in my head than I needed to. And I assumed everybody would be really upset. I had sponsors, I had, a big team around me. Everyone got it. Everyone was like, yeah, you're killing yourself with this. You look very unhappy. You look very unwell, And I was trying to build a business at the time as well, a nutrition app for fighters. And that wasn't working either. So it was all just a mess. And once I got it out of my own way, I went into a 6 year software sales career selling software across Europe and also into the States, and did pretty well. And that was the unspoken desire, And then another one happened, but I'll take a pause and question on uh, on that section of my story.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I mean, it's like the artificial or superficial desires or goals that we put on ourselves that aren't actually our soul's path. They aren't the thing that lights us up, but we think it will, and we go after that. And my gosh, it's such an amazing story because it's like, no, but actually this was my unspoken desire. And then when I found that it actually changed things. So I'm really curious, like what changed inside of you when you like inside of you when you were like, yeah, no, actually this is my unspoken desire. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, it started with an ego death. I remember sitting in the car saying goodbye to my coach, crying my eyes out afterwards. I remember just like, all right, that's me done now. That's it. That's over. So it
Mm,
felt pretty ugly. Felt like
yeah.
death. It felt, oh my God, this guy I've been for the last 10 years is no more. It's not the answer. So it wasn't nice. I think dealing with the brutal facts and the brutal honesty of what you truly want in life, in any areas, whether that's business, whether that's your personal life, whether that's relationships, whether that's sex, that's another area. A lot of people have
Yeah.
unspoken desires and they're too afraid to share what it is that they want to experience or try. Like
Right.
all of these things comes with a level of pain and vulnerability. And that's scary because to radically lean into those unspoken desires, part of you has to change. It's almost like the genie comes out of the bottle and you can't put it back in. And you're
Yeah.
afraid, is the genie going to come out and actually you're like Aladdin and you soar through the life that you want? Or does it turn into a Pandora's box and you open all of these scary things that you don't want to happen and people don't look at you the same anymore? And so a lot of people, I think, get childbirth syndrome where they remember the baby, they don't remember the 9 months of painful pregnancy. I think with
Yeah.
unspoken desires, it's very easy for us to look at how great life was afterwards, but actually it felt horrible. I had to drag myself kicking and screaming to kind of
Yeah.
make that. Not, this isn't for everyone, this is my personal experience. You know, it was very ugly and messy. And I think survival and deep transformational change can be ugly and messy. And there's a beauty in the messiness and the ugliness.
Yeah.
So that was
There's
kind of how I
baby
felt as I was
instruction.
moving through that.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate because I
Yeah.
remember, a time in my life where I had chased this desire to, be a go-to landscape architect and designer and everything, that there was this big apocalypse and I basically lost everything, like my identity, everything about me. And so what you're talking about the death of the ego and and that change, that transformation, like to follow that takes a willingness to let go of um, I can totally relate to and understand because it allows for an unfolding of something even more beautiful. But it takes courage to do that. And I'm curious how and you said there was another unspoken desire. So it's like after you had this experience where you had this ego death, what did you realize about yourself that then made the next unspoken desire easier to follow and to lean into?
I felt like I didn't have a choice with the first one because of the suicidal ideation attempt and the depression. So to a degree that was forced evolution, you know. Like I didn't really have a
Right.
choice. I had to face the reality of where I was or not be alive anymore as I saw it at the time,
Mm.
you know.
Mhm.
And then Hazel, she just changed my life, you know. She gets embarrassed when I say this because I say this on stage sometimes when she's seen it. But I'd be dead without her because she took me from a place of not wanting to be here anymore to loving my life. The next one was a hell of a lot easier, like a hell of a lot easier. And now again, not going childbirth syndrome because there was a period of sadness, there was a period of
Yeah.
anxiousness and whatever. But essentially, what happened, I spent 6 years in software sales, and the first 3 years was great. It was really fun. Loved it. Didn't have any other responsibilities other than, you know, what a guy. If you picture a stereotypical software sales guys, you know, 20 to 23, he's in a role that's probably 5 years ahead of where he is, you know, in central London, and all I used to do was sell and fly out and party at the weekend. That's all I did, and it was a great fun existence. But then I got to a point where it was easy because I had a bit of debt from the failed business. And debt can be a really good motivator, particularly in software like software sales, because it's like, that's my number. Here's what I do to get to the number, clear off the number.
Yeah.
Then I reached a point where, oh my God, I'm cash positive now. Like, great, I'm gonna go have fun. And then I reached a point where I went, why am I selling data analytics software? I don't care if, you know, big retailers or brands sell more of their stuff. What am I doing? How did I end up here? My whole goal when I was a kid was to help people, and I'm not helping anyone really. I'm helping my clients, but the outcomes I'm helping them with doesn't fill up my soul. So I just slowly and anxiously like woke up in the life I thought would make me happy, you know, the central London apartment, the senior career, you know, the partner that I felt validated me and my insecurities at the time. And like all this stuff, I was buying all this stuff and doing all this stuff, and I was like, I'm miserable. I thought this would make me really happy, and I'm not happy.
Mm.
So I was fortunate enough that I'd made enough money to not have to work for a couple of years. So I went, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. I'm not doing this. I restudied as a cognitive hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. And I've always been fascinated by the mind.
Mm.
By
Yes.
that point, I've already done maybe 100 hours as a client, performance coaching or therapy.
Right. Yeah.
And I just went, you know what? I want to do this. I don't know what it is going to be, and I'm going to study full time, and that's all I'm going to do. And then I worked with 100 clients for free whilst I was doing my studies and just was practicing and learning. And then I qualified, and a couple of clients started paying with me. And then just kind of blew up from there. And then I kind of skipped a stage to a degree because I started hiring other coaches because I had so much demand to come and help
Right.
me. And that's where I built TMP. But the unspoken desire was I want to help people for a career. I don't want to sell anymore.
Hmm.
And that was because again, ego death. My identity was I'm a software sales guy, right? That's what I
Yeah.
do. I
Right.
sell software and I go travel the world. That's what I do. And then the unspoken desire is, yeah, but you don't want to help people that way. So you can do with that what you want. And that was when I had the courage to go, all right, I'm gonna go and do that now. And a lot of people thought I was crazy when I went to box full time. They definitely thought I was crazy by that point, saying
Yeah.
like, and this is back when men weren't really in the UK anyway, men weren't really therapists.
Yeah, right.
So it was
It
really
wasn't the
unheard of.
norm. You were going against the
No.
grain. Yeah, they were like, "What? You want to do what?" So then you have not
Yeah.
only the ego death, but you have the perception of everyone else of what you should be doing that is
Yeah.
not even your programming and it's not what's going to fulfill you anyway. So, we face that all the time. So I'm just curious, like listening to this, I'm like, wow. So when you really leaned into this and you were like, this is it, this is what I want to do, this is actually how I want to serve people. What was some of the unexpected magic that unfolded for you?
I think I think it was stumbling onto the total mental performance company that I built. Like that I didn't intend to do that.
Right.
that wasn't the plan. It wasn't, I'm going to learn this stuff and then build a company. So for people that are listening, going, what's that? I launched a company called Total Mental Performance. So it's a performance consultancy for business owners and coaches to essentially help them think, feel, and perform on a different level. And I took that to 500 one-to-one clients across five coaches within 4 years. And that was the magic. That wasn't, I didn't like go into this to, I'm going to go build a company. And I took a load of experiences about building businesses, about hiring, marketing, sales, speaking, SOPs, operations, financials. So that was the magic. Like because I didn't assemble it on purpose, it happened organically. It then turned me back into an entrepreneur. But the goal wasn't to be an entrepreneur. The goal was I want to help people. And then I hit a ceiling in there because I wasn't willing to give up my one-to-one. Because if I give up my one-to-one, then I could spend the time scaling the company. But I didn't want to give up my one-to-one. So then I reached a ceiling. I was like, all right, I can't take this past five coaches. And I'm stuck and I'm stretched and I can't take this any further. So I think that was the magic. It was stumbling onto a
Mm,
business and stumbling onto a company. And that for me was the journey that I went on with that was the magic, and the
right.
person I became in the process was the magic, but it wasn't assembled. Because I think having an idea of how you want to help people and how you want to live is great. And, but I think if you assemble things too deliberately, you'll miss out on, you know, like a dog will follow their nose. Like, what's that? And you might miss out on that if
Yeah.
all you've got is your head down and you're looking at, I gotta go here, I gotta go here. Whereas I kind of just followed my nose, and I realized very early in my therapy career, I was like, I actually don't connect with therapy clients. I connect with ambitious clients.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work with ambitious people because I've always been ambitious
Yeah.
and drive and ambition and speed and fluidity and all of those things. They fascinate me. So I leaned into that, and that was a little bit of magic that then led on to the next part. So I think there was magic everywhere, and I just had to trust myself that
Mm.
I'll figure this out. It's okay.
Yeah, because
I'll follow my nose.
we often have that, as high achievers, it's like, we have that goal that we can just put our head down and really drive towards, but we miss all of these magical opportunities and things that unfold if we don't just lean intuitively into the elements, and then things come together in a different way than we ever imagined. And it's more fulfilling and gives more purpose to people's lives. So I can totally relate to that because I'm fascinated with efficiency, with speed. And so much so that I've gotten really, really fast at everything that I apply to. And people even say, "Well, can you slow down? Can you?" But, when you follow those instinctual, like kind of unspoken interests and desires and directions, life takes you to really interesting places. But I think there's a question that most people are watching that they would might want to know the answer to, and that is if they're in a really dark place or they have lost their identity or they feel like they're lost, what are the tools that you used to embrace what you're interested in and embrace the a new unspoken desire and go in that new direction?
Hmm. The dark place. Yeah, like I compare it to wearing really dark sunglasses,
Mm.
and sometimes you can't really see too far ahead. But every now and then you just get a little glimmer. Maybe it's like a laser pointer. Maybe it's a diamond. Maybe it's just a flash of light, and you don't know what that might be. That might be, for me, it was boxing at one point when I was a kid. That everything like as a kid, I felt very trapped in rainy England. Only live in sunny climates now, but rainy England and in a really small house with undiagnosed ADHD, and the glimmer in that dark p patch as a 12-year-old was boxing. And I just followed my nose. Right, let me go have a little go at that. And there was a few other glimmers that I tried, didn't work. That was okay. But one of them stuck eventually. So follow the little glimmers. And for me, the darkness was so bad I couldn't get out of my bed to brush my own teeth, and I didn't leave my parents' house for 2 weeks. That's like the level of darkness I got to. And brushing my teeth was an achievement. And just with time, like being really patient. If you're at that level of, if you're at that shade of the sunglasses, if you're a little few shades up, it's just like, oh, I'm just sort of demotivated. And what's the point? Then look for the glimmers, but then also find an expert, find somebody that knows how to change the lens some way. Can somebody challenge you? And that might be a therapy. That might be therapy if you're in a mental health space where you feel like, I don't know if I can keep this going or I'm going to do something dangerous. But if it's not, if it is just, oh, I'm stuck in the mud, I feel a little bit stuck. For me, I've always lived this way since boxing, which was just find an expert. Just find somebody that you connect with, somebody that's been where you've been, and just ask for help. And they can either help you or they can't. And if financially they can't help you, and you speak to them and you can't afford it, ask them, all right, what's one or two books I must read? Like, what should I read? Like, please,
Mm,
and they'll give you one or two books, and then that will just will glimmer, and you can follow your nose. And then you might read a couple of other books, or is there any podcast I should listen to? Or and you just got to look for the glimpse and the glitter and the little, oh, what's that? And that's how I, that's what I would say. So it's similar to a particular framework, but that's how I've got out of those moments. And the other one is try out of it. I've got to get out of this next week. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself and you make yourself feel worse. So it's understanding that it's okay to feel a bit stuck in the mud and in the darkness.
mm,
But it's in the
mhm.
dark, without the darkness, there is no light. And the more that you can love the ugly, dark, scary, uncertain moments, it'll make the light moments feel a lot lighter. So you have to love all of it. You can't
Yeah.
love
And
only one.
that actually brings me
That's my intuitive answer.
Might brings me to another question, actually, which is about, integrating parts of ourselves from our past when we do form a new identity. And we're the architects of our experience. And when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about like, oh my gosh, what are some of the things that you use from the time when you were a boxer? Because we all know that often we blink at the very moment that we need to have our eyes open. And how does that relate to what you are doing now that you're still using those things, even though you had an ego death and you it took on a new identity?
Yeah, bo boxing is a beautiful metaphor for performance and entrepreneurship, and I think any creative pursuit. So you've got the science of boxing, and then you've got the art of boxing, and you got some boxers that are more scientific. They've got their run times nailed on, and everything's super structured. And then you got the artists, the ones that decide to be a little bit crazy, and they psychologically outthink their opponent, even though they've not applied the conventional wisdom of the sport. So I think the biggest thing is mental fluidity. So uh, you have to be able to adapt. Bruce Lee says it himself, be like water. If you put water into a bottle, it becomes a bottle. If you put it into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. It can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend, is what he says. So with boxing, my style was I was a bit of a chameleon towards the end of my career. So I could go on I used to originally fight very aggressive on the front foot. Then when I got on the national team, I became a bit more of a counter puncher. And by the end of it, I just adapted to what was in front of me or what I felt like on the day. And what I've
Mm,
taken from there is you you got to do the study and you got to do the work and you got to understand the fundamentals. But if you can be fluid in your approach, if you can test things and understand, all right, that didn't work. Let me change and not take things personally and become just letting go and flowing more. I think that's something I've taken forward. And I teach a lot of my clients to have mental fluidity and go, look, you'll have a game plan, and then that plan might just go out the window within 30 seconds. So you've got to have the confidence that you can intuitively make a decision or change a game plan or strategy and be water to find the results that you want. So I think there's that. I think there's a lot of visualization that I learned in boxing around that. So
mm,
I have a plan. This is how I'm going to execute my plan. But actually, if it doesn't work, well, this happens. What if this happens? Okay, well then I start to visualize that, and almost training the mind and the body to go, okay, well, if this is what I need to do to win, this is what I'm going to do. But I'm also ready to change at the drop of a hat if I need to. So I think it's that. I think it's the ability to create mental fluidity where you don't cling to you don't cling to outcomes, and you don't cling to the future or fear of the future. You have confidence to show up as you are and know that you'll be okay, and you're able to fluidly think and feel intuitively to deal with whatever comes up. I would say there's that. There's loads of other stuff from objectives and planning and kind of the more the boring fundamental stuff, but I think that's
Mm.
the more philosophical point
But it
of it.
takes confidence, doesn't it, to show up and actually not have a plan and trust that your training up till now, all of your life experiences allow you to adapt and move fluidly.
Hmm. But it's also confidence to fail. Like
Hmm.
my relationship with failure was just really bad. Every fight I'd lose, I'd cry. I'd win if I'd cry if I'd won because I didn't feel my performance was good enough. It was really weird. But there's a confidence in going, I'm gonna find out. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna find out, and I can handle it if I don't find. If I find out I'm not up to the scratch, I can handle that too. You know, so I think people think confidence often has to be, I know I can do this, I know I've got this, but
Yeah.
you also got to know that you might not have this, and that's fine too, and you're okay. You know, because I think in business, like sure, you come up against high stakes sometimes, and that can be quite scary. But
Yeah.
most high stakes in business aren't going to kill you. They might kill the business, but they're not going
Right.
to kill you. They're not
And
going to
this is a really
destroy
good
you. And if
point.
you can learn to handle, well, look, even if this,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
well, it's having confidence that I just think people think confidence is I can do this. Not necessarily I could absolutely fumble this and make an absolute idiot of myself and it's gonna go wrong and I'll be fine either way. It's detaching from the outcome. That doesn't
Mm.
say you don't prepare to win. And it doesn't mean you don't show up to win. As there's a difference between showing up, giving up, and having lost before you've stepped into the ring, so to speak. It's you know what? I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be all right. I know I'm gonna be all right. If this works, great. If it doesn't work, I'll try something else. It's cool. But it's when we cling to the outcome, when we place our self-worth and our validation on the outcome. If I hit this revenue number, I am enough. Or if I exit this business, that's evidence that I'm a clever entrepreneur and that I can do this. And that's very short-lived. That's a short dopamine spurt that not everyone always gets. It kind of leaves you with more questions of, well, who am I without this thing now I've achieved it? Oh my God. And you set another goal and you run at it, and then you wonder why am I never fulfilled? So I think it's the confidence isn't only the ability to deliver, it's the confidence to fail and know that you're okay and you're enough, regardless of the external, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So what would you say to business owners that they've really attached their identity to the business and they are now in this, place of survival and the survival
Mm.
activates this part of their mind that they can't seem to let go of. How would you have them work with that?
All right, there's three things I would do. So the practical thing is, and this can happen with business owners that name the business after their own name.
Right,
So it's like, Kyran O'Neil, whatever. Sherry Stringer distribution, right?
right,
You can create an energetic cord between you and the business, and then if the business is failing, I'm therefore failing.
right.
So that for me, it's really important that you cut the psychological and emotional umbilical cord to the company, you know, because you can't control the market as much as you like to think you can control cash flow. Yeah, but if I pull this lever, this will happen. Yeah, maybe, but one day it might not. And then what? You know, how are you going to handle that? I think it's imperative. So that might be just looking at your spreadsheets and your dashboards differently and advising as if it's not your company. Like looking at those the dashboards and going, all right, if this is one of my mentees or one of my young employees and he brought this to me or
Detaching.
she,
Yeah.
well, what would I tell them? I'll tell them just get back to sales. Like relax, it's fine, it's okay. Or I'd say, you know what, you actually got a serious problem on your hands. And if I was in your shoes, here's what I'd do, and then go and do that. The second thing I would do, well, I kind of already said it, which is visualizing somebody else. Like visualizing your like self-coaching, visualizing you are your best friend or one of your mentees and you've got the same problem and what would you tell them? And then the advice you give them, do it yourself. Because often we're just looking for external confirmation that my thinking is okay. And we often look for the external world that, oh, do I know what I'm talking about? You can reassure me that this is a good idea. Probably already know
Yeah.
intuitively. And even if you're wrong, you can handle it not being right because it just updates your decision-making algorithm more from the losses than you do from
Right.
the win.
Right.
And then finally, on the emotional point, I think for you, it depends on your objectives, right? But if you're looking to live a more fulfilled life, a more life of flow and calm and confidence and performance, like doing some deeper inner work around why do I feel so insecure and triggered? Why do I feel a need to compete with everybody else? Why do I feel in these conferences I feel unworthy or not enough, or I'm looking at market leaders and they're triggering me, or I'm looking at there's this person on my board, and whenever I'm in there, I feel inferior whenever I'm in the room with them, and like and diving in, what's that about?
Mm.
Speaking to somebody one to one and unpacking, why do I feel this way? What does that inner child need to let go of? Or maybe it's a traumatic event as an adult, and it doesn't have to be capital T trauma, abuse, substance abuse,
Yeah.
physical, sexual, psychological abuse. It could just be you had a chief revenue officer that was super demeaning for 3 years of your life, and as a result, they installed an insecurity within you, and that's why those characters you can't handle. We don't know what it might be, but when you unpack that and let that go, you're just freeing up emotional bandwidth to not respond in that way and not feel that way. And you can use
Right.
those same psychological, emotional, and mental resources on other problems like hmm, this company that's not me, but I own and navigate, what's the next big opportunity for that? What's this AI thing all about? Could we change what we're doing in here with AI? Could we not? Is AI going to completely change this whole industry? Could I be a part of that change? Versus, what does that guy think of me? He must think I'm an idiot. Oh
Right.
my God. Why did I say that? I'm so stupid. Oh my God. You know?
That's beautiful, Karen. And it's so true because we can either wait or we can create. And when we get curious and we lean into what can I do with that? You come up with all different ways that you can attack it. And those three steps are so important and so often missed, that internal work that you do about things that have been installed, about automatic responses you have that they aren't even useful anymore. They don't serve you, but they're there. And if you're not aware of them, they can just undermine everything that you're trying to lean into and do. And so that was those three things are beautiful. I love that. And I can say that in my life, those have been true. In the moments that were the darkest for me, or the moments where I was felt like I was in survival mode and in scarcity, like just being able to disassociate from what I'm actually doing instead of being so attached to it and being like, this is something really fun that I get to do. And how can I play with it? Which goes back to your, just follow the feeling, the shiny, is that something you're interested in? Is that something you love? I truly believe that we often pause or put on hold the things that really matter to us. And that we have moments in our lives where we realize we're not aligned to the things that really matter. And one of the reasons that people do that is because if I were to do the thing that really matters, and then I failed at that or I wasn't good at that, then what? And so we kind of avoid the things that are the most important. And I'm curious, um, what thoughts those generate for you
About the
about misalignment and actually leaning into those things that really bring purpose and fulfillment to our lives seems a little scary.
Well, I think life is a series of alignments and misalignments. It's like sometimes one conversation can be a spiritual, psychological, whatever you want to call it, chiropractic readjustment, right? And first of all, you have to be aware that you're out of alignment. Something's off. Sometimes people could be too sensitive, which is, oh, I feel off. Something must be wrong. Actually, maybe just you ate something they didn't agree with you, right?
Right.
or you haven't been looking after your sleep training or nutrition and hydration as a result. So something's off, air quote. But let's say that continues and it doesn't disappear and it's not a health related issue and you're sleeping well, eating well, doing the basics well, and you're still feeling off and this is dragging on and on. First, we've got to acknowledge that you're unhappy and you have to accept that you always have to do something about it, I don't think. Sometimes these things clear themselves up. But then there are moments where you you have to go out of alignment for you to hit a boundary for you to realize that this isn't the right path or this isn't right for me. Because if you don't, if you're just always in a straight line all of the time, you're either not really trying at anything, like anything that's ambitious or scary, you're kind of just staying in your comfort zone, and you're also not growing because what your boundaries or what your alignment was before, as you evolve as a person, that might not be the same thing that gets you going anymore. You know, we were speaking
Mm.
before the podcast about the certification and the training and how, we've had a lot of coaches ask us, how do we learn to do what you guys do? And it was interesting because as much fun as I had, I was losing love with that market segment that I was working with. I
Mm.
think I was just getting tired with the way I was serving that market.
Yeah.
But the idea, so I was feeling out of alignment slightly. And then the idea of what if I could train and certify these people that want to learn from us from a proven framework that generates the results that we generate? Well, all of a sudden, that feels much more in alignment. So actually, it would have been easy for me to externalize, oh, the market's changed. I don't agree with this market anymore. Or actually, no, maybe just I'm out of alignment in the impact that I'm making at the moment. And
Mm.
that's where I need to change. So again, have good people around you, friends, family, people in business and in life. I call them sparring partners, like people that can bring the best out of you and you can challenge
Yeah.
each other and play and do
Yeah.
that. And mentors to just call you out, and just go, yeah, I don't think you really want this, pal. What? I don't think you want this. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of my take on that because you can't always be in alignment. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
don't panic when you're out of it.
Right. It's like being aware, but also realizing that it serves a purpose and helping you know what is really actually bringing you fulfillment or is meaningful to you. Yeah, I love that answer. That's wonderful. So if you were at a point where you could no longer make an impact in the world and you wanted to have ripples that continued to serve people in their lives, help them, be in this place of unlimitedness and peace and passion and flow, as you talked about. What would you want to continue? What are say three things that you would want to continue after you could no longer make an impact?
There's two men that come to mind in my life. One is a guy called Martin Calvert. He was my boxing coach who passed away, who I spoke about earlier. And when I went to his funeral, I was actually out of the country when he passed away, and I flew in the morning of the funeral, and I had a seat in the church, and I couldn't get to the seat because the boxing team had a seat. I couldn't get to the seat because there were people flooding out of the church down the street because he'd made that much of an impact on that community's life. And that made me think, wow, if I had that many people that show up to my funeral, I would have known I have helped that many people. I've made that much of an impact. So that was one ripple effect of what I learned from being a coach and a leader and helping people in the community. The second is a guy called Trevor Sylvester. So he's who taught me cognitive hypnotherapy, and he's trained probably 1,000 therapists, maybe more. I think probably more actually, because he's been teaching nearly 20 years now. So if you think about it, right, yeah, it's definitely more than 1,000 therapists. But let's just go with easy numbers. Let's say it's 1,000, right? And let's say
Right.
of the 1,000, only half actually build a therapy career,
Right.
and the other half just take those skills and use them in other fields.
Right.
Well, let's say each of across those careers, okay, let's go super small, right? Let's say they only, of those 500 coaches or therapists, they only had 100 clients each. across their whole careers. They'd have more, right?
Right.
That still 50,000 lives that are impacted through his
Right.
training. I suspect it's a hell of a lot more. I reckon it's like the hundreds of thousands. So that ripple effect of being able to create so much change and impact in the world really inspired me. And this certification idea I've had, it's been on my mind for a while. I've wanted to be able to prove that I can teach other people my process, which I've done with the team. I wanted to prove that they could do that and get results again and again and again, not just me. Done that with the team. And I wanted to prove that they could sell a program like that and build a living and build an income that unlocks more time and more freedom. And I've done that. So, in fact, of the four of the coaches on my team, all of them were in corporate when they joined, and we broke them out of that. And that for
Wonderful.
me is like, wow, okay. So I've helped them leave behind other careers that they didn't want to go and coach full time and go and do
Yeah.
that. Like, imagine if I could do that for 100 people. Imagine if I could do that for 1,000 people. How many? Like, so that would be the ripple effect of, okay, well, we never know how long we've got. Like, life can be taken in a moment.
Yeah.
But let's say it worked. And, I've coached thousands of coaches and thousands of clients throughout my career, maybe tens of thousands by that point. And
Yeah.
then I couldn't do anything anymore. But the ripple effect is I remember having this one conversation with Kyran and it changed my life. Or I remember doing that
Mm.
course and it built a whole new career for me. And now I've never looked back and I don't do what I used to do. That would be the ripple effect for me that made me go, yeah, like that was if I died and that was the ripples I left behind, I'd be pretty happy with that. I don't care about fame. I don't care about, like having big followings or anything like that. For me, I'd be happily be like a secret, and I kind of am. Like I'm not very well known, like a secret little sniper in the background, little operator, like a special forces guy that you never see, but bloody hell do they get in and get the job done. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I work, I
And
think.
it's true, if you help 1,000 people, if you help 100 people, and then those people help 100 people, and those people help 100 people, the impact is so much more than we ever imagine when we have a single session with someone and it changes their life or changes their perspective. And it's such a beautiful profession. I mean, it's so true. Um, what are you up to now? Like, how can people get involved in your work, follow you, at least your work, and see what you're doing and be a part of it?
Yeah, so what I'm doing right now, so I am a mental performance consultant, so I do take on one-to-one clients. There's usually an 8-week waiting period. So if someone's listening and they're like, I want to dive in right away, like there is a waiting time, but maybe and also other coaches that are they want to go up a league and level around mental performance specifically. That's my domain. And most of my clients come to me for three reasons. They want to become more calm, more clear, more confident. They want to hit their objectives faster, and they want to do that with less stress. And that's really where they bring me in to focus them, help them hit their objectives faster, help them heal. So heal the parts of them that are slowing them down, and then hone. So really hone focus to get them to go and do the things they want. So yeah, you can work with me one-to-one. If you check out www.kyranoneil.com, KYINONEILL.com. What else? I think I've got an Instagram account. If you search Total Mental Performance, you'll see some Instagram stuff on there. I'm not really on LinkedIn. I've got an email newsletter. So if you register on my website, you'll be able to see that. And I've got a podcast, which Sherry, I'd love to invite you on and
Oh, I'd
share,
love to
learn
be
about
on it.
your
Yeah.
story, your journey. The podcast is called Total Mental Performance. So it's just listening to high
Mm,
performers around
yeah.
what they've been up to, their stories, their journeys, and the lessons that we can learn from their stories
Wow. I
too. So
would
you
love
can
to talk
check
about
all of those
that.
out. Um, yeah. Well, you've got a super fascinating and interesting journey too. I
Yes.
remember you telling me in Santa Fe. I was like, wow, she did all this? Huh? What? It was amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Neuroscientist to, landscape architect, self-taught myself, created a design build firm that was, multi-million-dollar firm and go to, won all these awards. And yeah, there's just so many twists and turns. But
Yeah.
I've always been very fascinated and still am with mental performance. physical performance and emotional performance, and over the years developed a lot of tools for that. So it'd be fun to talk about that and go down that road and see where it takes us. Kyran,
Cool.
this has been absolutely amazing today to hear your wisdom and that you are sharing it with my audience. And people are really going to get a lot from this. And I'm so excited for them to watch this episode. And so
Pleasure.
thank you so much for being on here. Masterpiece Cafe for me is about sharing the insights and wisdom from humble visionaries, those visionary minds that are just out there doing the work, creating the ripples in the world. They have big hearts and they have big visions. And I really love sharing their journey from their unspoken desires, their untapped potential, through their challenges, and how they unfolded a masterpiece life. And if you like this content, you can do more with me. You can watch, of course, my episodes here. You can download some of my free guides like Fear to Flow or the 3-minute transformation on my link tree. You can join me in a retreat, which I'm doing next year in Telluride, Colorado, in the mountains, to build your own masterpiece in 7 days. You can also book a one-on-one call with me or share this podcast with someone that you think will get value from it. I do this because of the long game. I'm here to allow people to step into their masterpiece, to follow their soul's path, to tap into that unspoken desire, that untapped potential, something that you always wanted to do, to pivot into. And I'm here for those humble visionaries, just doing the work to make people's lives a better place, making ripples in the world. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of this movement, and I'll see you next time.